Have you been paying any attention to what's going on in the news just recently?
Or to the advances in technology that are coming out all the time?
And how does that connect with what we just did on our last series of AI and looking before Genesis and the fallen realm? Well, today you're not going to want to miss this episode. This is cutting edge, this is right now, this is happening, and this is the in-between right before Enoch.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to
Live Life in the Spirit. We are super excited that you've come to our site today.
Either on purpose or happy accident.
If you're looking for
Real truth,
real joy, real Jesus, you've come to the right place.
we're so glad you joined us today, and we are excited to jump right in. But in case you have missed this one or any other of our past ones, you can always go to our website at livelifeinthespirit.com to catch up on our latest podcasts, and blogs.
That's a hard word. And if you want a little something lighter, we have a multitude of joy breaks on Facebook Reels, Instagram, and also TikTok and YouTube Shorts.
And you might want to check me out on Penny Plock Schultz, I think it is, on Facebook, because I have my long short of it and my 2 cents. Well, today we have some exciting stuff. I don't know if you know Jimmy Evans with Tipping Point. He and Mark Hitchcock, they have done a wonderful video. This was actually a part 2. We're going to go ahead and show this now because I think it just really demonstrates everything that we've talked about from last spring to, well, that was a year ago spring, then where we picked up again at the first of the year.
Absolutely.
So if you just look at what has happened since even the first of the year, let alone last spring, it is crazy and scary
and explosive, and it would make you pause. It should make you pause.
It's everything that makes a good horror movie, but it's real life.
It is.
With that being said, we're going to have you show this, and then we're going to talk about it and show how that actually works into Genesis 3 and then Genesis 6.
2,000 years ago, the Apostle John recorded a vision of a future ruler who would watch every person on earth, control every transaction, and deceive every nation at the same time. For most of human history, what John described was technologically impossible. That has changed. Artificial intelligence is now assembling the kind of global infrastructure Scripture described, long before anyone could imagine how it would work. This is part 2 of its series examining how AI may be preparing the stage for the events the Bible foretold. The subject of this video, total surveillance and behavioral prediction. For most of human history, surveillance had limits. A king could watch his court, a general could watch his border. Even the most ambitious regimes of the 20th century, Stalin's Soviet Union, the East German Stasi, Mao's China, could only surveil a single country, and only imperfectly, through paper files and human informants. The world itself remained too large, too disconnected, and too analog to be seen all at once. In Revelation 13, the Apostle John describes a global system of compliance and control. No one can buy or sell without a mark. Dissenters are identified and taken out. The Antichrist exercises authority over every tribe, every tongue, and every nation simultaneously. For nearly 2,000 years, no human mechanism existed that could carry out that vision. That mechanism now exists. 3 converging technologies have made global surveillance technologically possible. The first is the proliferation of sensors, cameras, smartphones, microphones, biometric scanners, vehicle telematics, and wearables now exist in nearly every populated region of the Earth. The second is the digitization of identity. Facial recognition, fingerprint and DNA databases, iris scans, and even gait analysis can attach a name to a body at a distance, in a crowd, sometimes through a mask. The third and decisive factor is artificial intelligence. Human beings cannot watch billions of cameras, but AI can. Artificial intelligence processes video, financial transactions, communications, and movement data simultaneously across the entire planet without rest. What it observes, it correlates. What it correlates, it predicts. That last word is critical. The novel feature of modern surveillance is not the volume of data collected. It is the use of AI to forecast behavior before it occurs. Predictive analytics now claim to identify likely dissenters, likely protesters, and likely criminals, sometimes before these individuals themselves are aware of their own intentions. Emotion recognition, facial microexpressions, vocal tone, and physiological signals to estimate internal states. Pattern analysis flags deviations from a person's normal routine. The Chinese government has deployed a working prototype. Facial recognition is tied to digital currency, medical records, travel permits, and social credit scoring. A dissenting comment posted online can result in a frozen bank account, a canceled train ticket, or a denied university placement. The infrastructure is functional today on more than 1 billion people in a single country. What is happening in China is not unique to China. Similar systems are being developed across Europe, the Gulf states, and North America, under different legal frameworks and for different stated purposes. The underlying technology is the same, and it is converging. The implications for Bible prophecy are direct. Revelation 13 describes a regime in which those who refuse the mark are systematically hunted and killed. For most of church history, this raised a practical question. How could such a manhunt be carried out on a global scale? The answer is now visible. AI-driven surveillance does not require millions of human informants. It requires sensors, processing power, and a centralized database. 2 Thessalonians 2 states that the lawless one will come with all power, signs, and lying wonders. The Antichrist of the Bible is not described as omniscient or omnipresent. He is a man who requires tools. Artificial intelligence is the tool that lends his future regime the appearance of omniscience. Daniel 12, verse 4, states that in the time of the end, knowledge will increase, and many will run to and fro. The increase of knowledge Daniel anticipated has arrived at exponential rates. The same systems that enable medical diagnosis at a distance, agricultural yield prediction, and real-time global logistics also enable population surveillance at scale. The technology itself carries no moral position. The use of it is determined by those who hold the controls. Each new sensor is justified by a particular purpose. Each new database is built for a particular application. The components are assembled in stages, over years, and rarely as a unified plan. But the cumulative effect of those independent decisions is a single emerging capability. The persistent, continuous observation of every human being who participates in modern life. That capability did not exist in any prior generation. It exists now. Nero could persecute a city. Stalin could surveil a nation. A future ruler will be able to monitor the world. This series does not claim that artificial intelligence is the Antichrist. It is an observation that Scripture described capabilities, and technology now explains mechanisms. The infrastructure of Revelation 13, surveillance, control, deception, and enforcement at global scale, is being assembled in real time. The Bible says these things are coming. The only question is whether you will be ready when they do.
Okay, now we invite you to take a breath. That was some pretty heavy stuff.
It is. It's one of those things that you don't think about it because all of those little pieces of technology are so much a part of our everyday life, which I think has been a big part of the point, that we don't think about the overall impact. But when you step back and you take a look and you compare that with Revelation 13, wow.
I love what he said with each individual thing. Everything has been pretty much an asset for our lives. That's how they are able to do it and to sell it. But it's a cumulative effect.
Absolutely.
Put it all together. That is scary, beyond scary. I like at the beginning when he was talking about before, when you had kings. I mean, they were so limited. I mean, you could only control what was under your thumb, so to speak, or in the area. You could only control what you could send people out to spy on.
And most of that was by horseback or animal back of some sort, chariot ride, whatever. And then they had to write it down or remember it and bring it back. amount of information and control was so incredibly limited.
We're going to touch on this even later, but another thing, I would say, I don't know, 10 years ago, the preppers and the going off the grid was the big thing. We go off grid and then nobody will know where we're at. Well, we're going to look later that won't even stop you from what the Antichrist can do with the tools of AI.
Tools that are already in place and in use, even within the United States, or by the United States.
Or around the world. Even more so in some of the other countries.
It's been a while, so let's just refresh a little bit. Revelation 13 talks about the Antichrist having this ability to have total tracking and control of the entire world. And I know when we did our series on Revelation, it's been what, two and a half years ago now?
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about China's social credit score, and we talked a little bit about cryptocurrency, digital currency, that kind of stuff. And we hinted a couple of times about like implantable things that you can purchase things with.
Facial recognition, because some of the eye.
Yes, the eye scanning. We've talked about some of that. I don't know about you, but after watching this video, I am floored at how far we've come even since then.
Oh, definitely.
And I didn't realize, even as we watched it the first time, there were things I thought, oh, well, they can't get beyond that. And then I stopped and went, they sure can. They talk on this video that there are 3 things in place now in the world that make it so that this global tracking and control is possible. The first one are all of the sensors, cameras, smartphones, wearables, all of those things. How many of those things do you suppose you have in your home?
Well, I'm probably more of the basic. So I'm going to be, I would say, more with probably the people still left in the dark. But I have a phone, and I have now a watch, thanks to you. But that's about it. I don't have Alexa.
Right.
I don't have a Ring camera with Amazon, or I don't have Siri. We do have a smart TV though now, that before we didn't have that. And they're listening to everything's listening. And my car, well, it is a 2020. It is a smart car, sort of.
It has some
But
technology.
it's not hooked up to satellite.
Right.
But when you think about the people, their entire whole house is hooked up to the internet.
Well, and if you think about it, I love it. I can just say, Amazon, turn on my lights. Turn on my bedroom lights. Turn on my kitchen lights. Like, you're giving it a blueprint to your house and where you are, and with the very easy recording capabilities, because as my children will tell you, because we do have Echo devices mostly for listening to music and that kind of stuff, and timers, and then communication between the floors, which I know that probably sounds sad, but I have teenagers. There'd be a lot of running up and down the stairs. So if they are on it and looking up stuff, I can go to the app on my phone and listen. It records and saves it all in the app for, I don't know, quite some time, where I can just listen to what they were not what they were talking about, but if they say Echo such and such or Alexa such and such, it records it and I can listen to it.
Wow.
That's crazy, because then with all of the technologies we have, and we know this happens, they could use that voice to do all kinds of things.
Well, it's okay. So your cameras. Think about your cars. I mean, we have, like, the police have body cameras, but we have cameras now that a good chunk of the Americans have in their cars, dash cams. Well, one could say, well, that's great, because then, if I hit a deer, you could see it coming out. Or if there was an accident, we're really bad about getting perspectives right of what really happened. Our memory can be foggy, but right there it is on film. However, we also know what you can do with AI in a film, or a dash cam, or a Ring camera, I think. I don't know if that's stored at Amazon. But
Well, it would be stored somewhere. Yeah.
I'm gonna stop. My nose is itching so bad. Oh gosh. I'll make it better. Sorry. Good grief. It's this room. It's on this room.
There's probably mold somewhere.
I'm sure. Okay, so go ahead. So it's the camera. We also know your phone. You can even have this thing off, and yet somehow it knows what you're saying. I'll never forget, and this was 3 years ago. At least 3 years ago. It was right after COVID. And my phone was off, but it was on the counter over there. And remember my daughter, she was still in high school. She came up to me and she goes, "Mom, you know what would make us look really rich?" I'm thinking, no. She goes, "If we had electric salt and pepper grinders." I'm thinking, seriously. Guess what popped up on my Amazon thing when I turned on my phone?
Electric
salt and pepper grinders. It was off, and yet it was recording. That was 3 years ago. I'd hate to think what it is recording now.
What it's capable of doing now. Absolutely. So, and even sensors, if you think about automatic lights that come off and on. I mean, just all of the different things in all of the places that we go that are recording information. And you think about the traffic. Okay, yes, if kind of like OnStar used to be, now it's mostly an app on your phone, but newer ones I think are having better technology where it can report if you're in an accident. That's a wonderful thing. It's so amazing.
What about Google Maps?
Oh, yeah.
It is literally tracking you. And if you have the iPhone or whatever, you can, it's like the Life 360 or whatever, you know where everybody else is going at all times.
You can do that in Google also.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and I think about that too, because you can store in a home address, a work address. Sometimes it's nice. I'm like, oh, where was it that I went? I'll go back and look at my search history and it'll be there. Oh yeah, that's helpful. Also, that's a lot of information that they are storing.
Or it knows. I remember 5 years ago, my girlfriend was talking about that. She got on her Google Maps and it started saying, "Are you sure you need to go there?" Because she would normally go from work to home and she'd take the same route all the time. But one day she had to make a point B stop before she went home. And Google was going, "Are you sure?" It's like, it knew her routine down to the spot. I'm so glad it doesn't know my routine because I'm all over the place.
It's true. You don't have a routine.
Nope.
So then the second piece of information that we utilize now that is stored everywhere is biometric data. And using that for identity. So fingerprints. How often or how many people use fingerprint scanner on their phone to unlock it? Because you think that's safer than a password.
No, it's easier.
Well, that's true. Not safer, easier. All of the shows show you that when somebody dies, you can just chop their finger off and put a little moisture in there and use it to get their stuff. Maybe watch too much crime drama. I don't know.
I'm beginning to wonder.
But even that, so DNA, the number of the amount of our DNA that is stored anytime you've had a new medical procedure that's done, if you've been blood tested, typed, that kind of stuff.
You've done ancestry DNA, you, me, and 23.
Your 23andMe, yep.
23andMe, yeah, whatever that was.
All of those. While yes, your data is secure.
We don't know.
They tell you. They tell you it is.
They tell us a lot of stuff.
They do. But I would imagine the top bidder would be willing to sell it to just about anyone for the money.
We don't know they didn't.
I'm pretty sure they probably did.
I was thinking, weren't they even brought up on that?
23andMe was, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But what about the fact that there are programs that can recognize a person by their gait? So by the way that you walk. So even when you have a mask on, they can tell who it is by the way they walk. So we just need to embrace Michael McIntyre's system of skipping with both hands going.
Just changing it up all the time. Dancing all the time, wherever we go.
Then you'll be all right.
Well, and retina scan.
Yes.
They're using that for so much. When he said that, all I could think was, Edna, Mo, on Incredibles.
Absolutely.
Okay, that was Incredibles. How many years ago was that Incredibles came out? And that was already, it was a little futuristic. We had it a little bit then, but it was more for like your high governor
security.
Agency. Yeah.
Right.
Now, it's like just about anything. You work at a bank, I think it's almost like a retinal scan.
There's a lot of places that use those. And all of that data is stored and is accessible if anything in that system goes online. Face recognition is another huge piece of biometric data that's stored everywhere. I mean, my kids always try to use that even to open their phone up. And until we really started talking about this, I never realized how dangerous that is. It really is. So what we have to do now from all of this is we have to walk around dancing and skipping, and then I have to start keeping track of all the faces you tell me not to make on a first date so that I can keep throwing those out there. And then maybe, just maybe, they won't recognize us. However, as we'll find out later, none of
that'll still matter. They can still find you.
This third piece of technology that makes the global control and surveillance possible is artificial intelligence.
It can control everything simultaneously. Because while before we had people who were on the lookout for, like, they would be looking for car license plates, or they'd be looking for make and models. They would be looking for maybe if you were a felon or if you were a bank robber on a high level, you know, they would be out for facial recognition or whatever. But it was people doing it. Now you have a computer that just does it all around the whole world, everything,
at the same time,
grabbing banks. Like, so if you were you had just robbed something, or maybe you were a person in question and you went to a convenience store, or you went anywhere and you bought anything, even if you thought, okay, I used cash, I didn't use my credit card, guess what?
There's a camera.
Boom, it can tell. You know, if you put on the mask, but you walk out of there, boom, it can tell. I was gonna say, depending on your gait.
And here's the amazing thing, and also the terrifying thing. If you think about even in war, how they would have people listening to hours and hours and hours to look for any word or any whatnot. Now they have programs scanning to analyze all of that data.
And in less than 2 seconds, AI gives you an overview of what was just said during that. I don't know about you, but I hadn't gotten this before. Now every single email comes up with a summary. If I get a text from my friend who's long, boom, summary. From Facebook Messenger, summary. I don't want the summary.
I'm gonna read all their words. There are real world applications where this is already in use. Talk about China.
Well, China, you know, they've had the facial recognition in for years, which then led to the credit score thing, social credit score, which means depending on, they look at everything. They look at your algorithms, they look at what you're posting on social media, they look at your job, they look at the groups that you are involved in, they look at everything, the car you drive,
where you shop, all of that.
How much money is in your bank account, which then gives you a social credit score. Depending on what that is, depends on if you can get an apartment or not. Depends on if you can go to college or not. Depends on if you can get a job or not. And at a moment's notice, they can wipe out your bank account.
Because it depends on whether or not they're going to let you buy or post or have access to anything. So where this is already headed, that you and I were just like, that's terrifying, is this predictive analysis.
Although I want to slip in there before, it's not just China.
No.
I mean, the Gulf coasts are doing this, Europe is doing it, and North America, which is not us, so that's Canada. This is spreading like wildfire.
And I would venture to say that it is in use in some respects in the United States. It just hasn't been taken to that point because the current administration doesn't want us to have to do that.
But we were headed in that direction, and that's really what
100%.
COVID was all about.
In a lot of ways.
Yes, to get everybody to move to digital currency, to get everybody moving to social media, to get everybody moving to Facebook. And so we post all of our sermons even online. We do Zoom now. Let this settle for a moment. We just did a Zoom call last night with our Israel friends that we went to Israel with. How cool is that? All over the nation and the world, but we get together once a month still. And we have a wonderful time. But we're in our own homes. In Zoom, it's the camera, so it's your phone camera, is seeing the room you're in, what's going on in the background,
who you're connecting with, what you're talking about. They might not like us.
And then when we were posting up things in the chat, of things to look up,
right,
they are not privy to all of that.
That's terrifying. Still,
it is.
Unnerving.
Well, I want to get into this predictability, because I think this predictive AI, this is what is kind of horrifying. What it can be good, or it can be taken to the nefarious side, which would be really, really, really bad.
Right. So the idea of predictive analysis is so AI takes all of the information that it mines from everywhere around the world. And that would also include, just so you are aware, if you use any AI like ChatGPT or OpenAI or any of those kinds of things that are web-based programs, I guarantee that data is not secure and it's being shared. So all of that information, plus all of the videos and cameras from all around the world and all that kind of stuff, for micro expressions, mannerisms, your writing styles, your patterns of behavior, your patterns of travel, all of that kind of stuff, to determine what you will do in the future.
They were saying that right now, what the government's using on the criminals, they can predict if someone is going to be a criminal. They can also not predict, but they notice when somebody's deviated
from their
normal. I get that. And that would be very wonderful. And that sounds like a really good idea. Okay, but until somebody does something wrong, you can't arrest them for that.
Right.
But they predict you're a criminal. However, okay, so that's the good side. Let's look at the bad side. The bad side is, if I'm predicting that you have the tendencies to do this or that or something in a criminal nature, well, what kind of algorithms am I going to send you? Is it going to be all Mr. Rogers and Bluey, or...
Everybody needs Bluey in their life.
No, I'm going to be sending you inflammatory algorithms. I am going to send you stuff through whatever social media you are on and open up channels and avenues for you to get on things that you probably wouldn't have searched for yourself. But oh my gosh, now it's telling you how to make a bomb, or maybe this is telling you how to shoot someone, or the plan to do it.
Right.
Or the means to get help, or an escape plan. I mean, these are just it's not far-fetched at all.
Not at all, because it is happening in real time. It is happening. It's terrifying, because and one of the things that says in that video was that the technology itself has no moral compass. So it is completely controlled by the moral compass, or lack thereof, of whoever's in control of it.
I know I've mentioned this before each time we've talked about AI, because I guess it had impacted me so much. The movie The Net with Sandra Bullock, that goes all the way back. I mean, that thing is, 2 decades old maybe? I don't know. And it was so far-fetched. I think it's had a floppy disk, if I remember correctly, back then. But it was how already computers then could infiltrate if you had somebody who could hack it. And it was, so much as just hacking your identity and changing your identity and making all of a sudden you a fugitive, and it changing your medical history. So somebody who was in the hospital because they were only looking at a chart and not anything else, read it, what was hacked, gave the wrong injection, killed them. Just all these multiple things that one would go, oh my gosh, it was a sci thriller at the time, but it really impacted me, because I'm like, this could really happen, and what would you do? You'd be helpless. This is on steroids. What's going on now? I mean, they look like child's play. So in that short amount of time, and like we said, just from last year to now, or even this winter when we did it, I guess it was January,
Right.
to now, 6 months.
The amount of technology that is coming out and being used far more publicly.
Or yes, being public.
Yes.
I'm sure we've had all this before,
course.
but we were not privy to a lot of it. Now AI, how many here use AI for ChatGPT or something like that? It is a tool, just like anything else. A tool can be used for good, or it can be used for bad. Here's the thing though, I did not tell ChatGPT, anything about me. I know you did on your side
stuff
for the Live Life.
Right, for helping write like the descriptions on our pages and some of that kind of stuff.
But for me, I have not put any description of anything. I will just say, this is what I want, and I type it all in, and usually it's images or stuff that I want, and then I don't have to worry about the copyright. But this week I was kind of like, I wonder what hymns would work for this thing that I'm doing, and I had the scripture and everything, so I just kind of typed that in. It knew to give me not just the Presbyterian hymnal, but the York one we use is different than the Presbyterian, and it's a Praise and Glory or something. It's a purple hymnal. Mm-hmm. It knew that, and it knew that I do the FCC, and so it gave me the chalice. And they know that we do a contemporary, so it gave me contemporary ones.
I bet you that means it's had access to your email, where you email
my computer. Mm-hmm. I think it has access to your computer.
I'm sure it does.
So I can look at your documents, and it says I do a contemporary song, and we do, because it even gave me almost the exact number of hymns. It gave me like 2 more to pick from, but it knew the hymns I use. Yeah. It was just, it's spooky, the different things that it has said. Mm-hmm. That it's like, I never told it that. Well, one thing, when I was going for something, it said, do you want me to coach you on this? And I said, no. But it went through this whole thing of, you're very deliberate and you pause in between your next sentence or whatever before speaking when you're wanting to make a point.
Right.
The only way it would know that, because I don't write any of my sermons, it has to be pulling that from YouTube.
Right.
And from Facebook. Which means it knows. Even if you don't want it to know, it knows.
And all of that data is stored in places that advanced AI has the ability, with the people in control of it, to gain access to all of it.
Well, as we mentioned through our Revelation study, in 2 Thessalonians 2:8-10, it talks about this. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, and all powers and signs and lying wonders, and with all unrighteousness, deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved. That is got so much of a packed punch right there.
But that power and signs and false
So what are they talking about, the lawless one?
The lawless one is the Antichrist.
AI, we want to be clear, AI is not the Antichrist. In fact, we talked about that quite a bit through our different series. But it is a tool that the Antichrist is definitely going to use. That's why there has never been a time in history up to now that the tribulation could have happened.
Right.
I mean, I get that Satan has always had somebody in place that could be an Antichrist. Again, an Antichrist is just somebody who's against Christ.
Right. And who is willing to be used.
But I think that's the difference between 2 Thessalonians. It's not talking about just an Antichrist. It's talking about the lawless one. Again, there is still more specific. He's going to do signs and wonders. We have not had anybody that can do what this man is going to do. And he's only going to be able to do it because it's going to be all on falsehoods and on deception.
Lying wonders. Yes.
Oh, yes. And we couldn't do that before, but look what we can do now with technology. There's never been a time that any ruler could control the world, and that's what he will do. How could one person control the world? Until now. You need a central hub that will give him the ability to pay attention to everybody, everywhere. So when it talks about the chip, or not the chip, I should say, we talk about the chip, but when it talks about the mark, that's how they're going to know if you have it or not, because they're going to be able to ping every single person, whatever this mark is, they're going to be able to track it. And with this ping, if there comes a time where they're supposed to, when you're supposed to bow down and worship the beast, worship the Antichrist, if you are not bowing down at that time or doing whatever that religious duty is, that ping is going to go off. And he is going to be notified immediately. And so this is not like, I'm up here, wherever that's at, and I have to somehow send troops across the world. He's going to have people in place everywhere, and they're going to be at your doorstep that quick. Besides 2 Thessalonians, Daniel talks about that in the end times knowledge will increase and it will go to and fro. I love that. It's a to and fro. When you think about when Daniel wrote this is way before John wrote or before Paul wrote. There was a lot more action going at Paul's time than Daniel's
time.
So how is information going to go to and fro and even let's bring it up to the covered wagon? Was information going to and fro? We had the Pony Express.
Right.
You got some, but if you want to get something from India to Kansas, that's not going to happen.
Not in a to and fro kind of motion.
Bring it up to even the 70s and the 80s. We had the iMacs and stuff, but you could put stuff on your computer, but to get information somewhere else, you had the radio and you had the television that was getting better.
And telegraph, but again, that all required a wired connection.
Bring it to the 90s, and we had Juno. That was the first internet connection, and you could email. That's all you could really do was email.
I don't remember Juno.
You don't remember Juno?
I remember AOL. We had AOL.
Well, I think Juno were for the people who didn't have AOL. You had to be in the bigger towns.
Yeah, you were in a little town. Yeah.
And then you fast forward again. But that was the first time people really didn't have everywhere around the world that kind of technology. Now, everybody's got a phone.
Well, and has access to some sort of technology in the internet. You don't even have to have phone service. If you have the internet, you can hit a message and hit send, and that message can be in seconds in Dubai, in Iran, in India, in South Africa. I mean, anywhere. In seconds.
It's making the radio obsolete. Well, it is. Think about it. Everything now is Spotify or Siri satellite.
Satellite radio.
We have never been in a time where knowledge has increased so much in such a short amount of time. And it is not just flowing to and fro, it's all over everywhere simultaneously. The surveillance is so prevalent that every person in the world, even with your car, if you get out of a vehicle and you get into another vehicle, they already know. That to me is what blows my mind. There was a gentleman who had cancer and in fact, I think it wasn't on the video. But Jimmy had talked about that he had cancer, so he was on morphine, and for some reason, in his delusional state, he got up and he got in the car and he left. When his wife realized it, she called the authorities and she was freaking out, that he was driving. She didn't know where he was, so she gave him their make and their model of the car and the license plate, and he says, "Don't worry, we'll find him. We'll have him home." I mean, it wasn't we'll try to look for him. They had found him very shortly. He was in another state. They found him just within hours. He was curled up sleeping in the back seat and brought him home. I mean, just that quick. All right, let's get really exciting. We're going to talk about the newest technology that we just found out about, that many people argue still doesn't even exist, and yet it does. The CIA and the government have, including the president, have admitted to the fact it does. So we had a really exciting thing that happened with our military not that terribly long ago.
No. A couple of months ago, we had military personnel that were downed in Iran in the middle of nowhere. They had no idea exactly where they were or how to find them. There was no communication. They have technology now called the ghost murmur that they were able to, in the midst of the sound that would be in any land, as far as vehicles and cell towers and like all of these different things.
Other people.
Yes. They could find those pilots' heartbeats specific to them. They were able to locate them and bring them home safely. Now,
that sounds wild, but there's no other way they would have found them.
Right. In that kind of a usage, that's incredible. I mean, you think about
little kids. If
somebody gets lost in the forest or lost in the woods. I mean, I just read a story in, this might date me slightly. I read a story in Reader's Digest, an actual paper copy even, About a little boy who was skateboarding and tripped and fell down into a wooded ravine. And they did find him, but it took a bloodhound. Because in this little town, they didn't have access to the ghost murmur technology. But he was within hours of not surviving by the time they found him. Something like that, the applications are incredible. But let's say you've posted something online.
And you are hiding out. You've done nothing wrong.
Right.
Or you're trying to be off grid and you have no technology with you. And you are up in a wooded place.
They can still find you. And it even said, and I don't remember who it was that said it, no matter where you are, we will find you.
That was the government slogan. Which would be good if you were that person, that older gentleman who had gone in the car, or somebody who had fallen down in a ravine, or the soldier that was out in the timber. Wherever you are, we will find you. But if you take that from a nefarious tone and you're trying to hide or escape,
live your life, or if you haven't done anything wrong and you're being persecuted for whatever reason, say in the end times, if you're a Christian who won't
take the mark
or worship the beast or whatnot,
wherever you are,
we will find you.
Just amazing, that little difference. Again, same technology. It can be used for good or it can be used for bad. All of this stuff can be used for good or used for bad. I remember just looking at that bigger picture, even with Elon Musk, when he was doing the satellite and when he was offering all this free cell phone, I think it is, you just pay the one charge and that's it. You have a free cell phone. And is it or is it internet?
Maybe it's internet.
I thought it was cell phone. It could be internet.
I think it's internet. That Starlink?
Yeah.
I think that's internet.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I knew it was something. I was thinking about Elon. I was thinking about Elon Musk with his satellite and Starlink and all this stuff he's doing. And you pay one time, but then you have free internet. You're not paying a monthly fee. Well, other than the satellite, which I'm sure was not cheap, and there is maintenance on that, but you're not paying for cables and groundwork and all that kind of stuff. Why would a person be willing to offer people free stuff? Now, I know there's some people that say this technology should be free, and I just want to give it free. However, I can almost see an alternative motive. If we have everybody linked, I mean, we are linked on the internet, but if we are all linked through one thing, so to speak, it's just getting that much closer. He may not have any ill intentions. Not saying he does. Nothing bad against Elon Musk. Same with his car. Everything is linked. It is just one step closer to a universal system.
Yeah.
Even President Trump, I believe, with very good intention on stuff, when he talked not that long ago about how he was investing, $5 billion into AI, and he had gotten outside investors, and then he was investing some. I know he wants to be on the leading edge, and I totally believe fully that he has all good intention and that, we should be on the head of the cutting edge. Again, it's all going to be brought together. It doesn't matter who's the one doing it.
Right.
It's gonna happen. Because knowledge has been given to us that we should have never had. And it is only going to increase, and it is going to just keep moving regardless of who the powers to be are in any nation, in any tribe, or in any tongue. It's all going to come together and converge, and become one big universal system that can be controlled by one universal man. And that one universal man is going to be the Antichrist in the end.
So we are, in fact, seeing the capacity for the end times to happen more than we've ever seen previously. I mean, it is here. Whether you think it's going to come tomorrow or 100 years from now or whatnot, understand that we are getting closer and closer and understand that we are getting closer and closer, and that ability, because he's not omniscient or omnipresent, but with technology and tools, he will appear to be that way.
I noticed something while we were watching this that struck me, and Kristen did too. The parallel between the surveillance system and the gifts of the Spirit. Stick with me here for just a minute. Prophecy, the gift of prophecy.
Predictive analytics.
Miracles, signs and wonders. Speaking in tongues and the interpretation of tongues.
We have technology now that if I speak into it, it will translate it into any language. And I've seen that. We've had that at the UN for the past 2 decades at least.
But real time.
But now someone, even on your phone, Google Translate.
Yeah, but they even have like a little earpiece. So when you're talking, it's translating it immediately.
They use that in tourist locations all the time, so that whoever the tour guide is, they can select what language is, and I can hear what that tour guide is saying in my native tongue. The ability to hear whatever someone is saying in your native tongue is 100% the gift of speaking in tongues.
Discernment. The gift of discernment. We have now AI that's trying to discern for you.
Mm-hmm.
Again, discern the fact that this is not your normal route.
Mm-hmm.
That is not your normal behavioral pattern. That is not your normal face.
Right. Well, that's true. You look a little pale.
And healing. I would even say that because AI now can tell you doctors exactly what's wrong the doctors may have missed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this could be a wonderful tool if you were going to multiple doctors and nobody could figure anything out and they were all prescribing things that were fighting each other. AI could come in and look at all of that and go, oh, well, no, you are being doubled on this or that or that. And well, all of your symptoms present. Since you've tried this and this and this and this, we think it's that. That could be a positive thing. That could potentially lead to a healing that we wouldn't have had normally. However, that could also go bad too.
Well, and if you have AI that is trained to do certain things, what if it tries, like if it's helping in a surgery and it's to give you the best possible route to the best outcome, and none of them would lead to what it feels like is the best possible outcome, well then I've seen it where it'll just shut down. Well, this person can't be saved, so I'm not going to do anything. And there's no way to have that human override. I've seen stories and heard stories of stuff like that. Taking the human element out of it can be a good thing. But even when we talked about AI in the military, when you have AI that's programmed to determine whether or not to drop a bomb or shoot someone, as long as it passes the program that it was, and what if the person who did the programming didn't have good intentions, or what if they were tired and did a missed key? So many things.
Well, and if we had a social score and you had to take a certain medication to keep you alive, I mean, like something as simple as levothyroxine, if you've had your thyroid out, or a heart medicine that you have to take, they can just say, denied. And then you can't get it, especially if it's a prescribed one.
Right.
It again, it's just both sides. Why don't you talk about the drones? That's become the new thing, not just for America, but it blows my mind that Ukraine has been fighting Russia for how long now? What's left? You wonder what's even left of the country, let alone what's left of the finances and where they're coming up with the ammunition. But they are now making and fighting with what?
Drones. And we are talking anywhere from 5 to 830,000 drones per month coming out of the production lines in Ukraine alone.
That's crazy. And they're one-time use drones.
A lot of them, yeah. $500, one-time use, send it, do its job, and then it's dead. Or it's done.
So my question is then, so you have these drones that, okay, we have a fighter jets that or how much money. Could do a lot of damage. But how many drones would it take to take down a fighter jet? Because a fighter jet couldn't shoot them all down. And if they're all a one-time uses, heat-seeking, you know. Or how do we keep all those drones from, say, hitting the White House or hitting a specific house target? You couldn't.
I mean, you could even, certainly they could have some sort of bullet or ammunition or something on board. But if you just had them all programmed for a suicide mission with just a little bit of something on board and 1,000 drones hit one place, it'd be done. It would be done. Or we talked about that when we talked about the end times and like if nobody bowed down to the beast, that they would know by the chip or whatnot. Imagine the use of drones in that situation. They don't have to have a person to send. They can say that person, and you're dead.
In fact, they probably just have them hovering over the top anyway to see. And then if somebody's not compliant, takes them out immediately.
And drones, I mean, I think of smaller ones, but we know of someone that uses drones in agriculture. And how many?
That holds 18 gallon. They have even bigger ones that hold 40 gallon.
40 gallons of liquid.
So 18 gallon can do 9 acres before it has to refill.
What if it was a nerve agent or some sort of chemical warfare? It's small enough to not be found by normal radar. Now, I do think they can probably find a lot of them, but they are getting smaller and smaller and better.
The point is, they would get in too quick. You wouldn't be able to take them all out. And that was the whole point. If you were to send in a barrage, I was thinking of Israel with the Iron Dome, and that's really what Lebanon was trying to do. They were shooting so many missiles at one time to see how many would it take before the Iron Dome
didn't have enough to keep up.
Couldn't do it. And they kind of found out. But if you brought in that many drones, well, there's no way.
It's terrifying. Yeah.
Which all we can do from a biblical perspective, I mean, this kind of stuff is what gives you nightmares. This kind of stuff is what keeps you up at night. However, we serve a God who is in charge, who is still ultimately in control. While he is not happy about probably much of anything that's going on down here, but he can still slow things up. He can still, as we say, put the speed bump in. He is still ultimately in control.
And I think the fact that he is allowing this to happen is quite telling, because it says to be on the lookout for things like this and be ready.
And that's why he's letting us know. So that way
we have plenty of oil in our lamps.
And we have plenty of time if you have not accepted him as your Savior. I mean, we highly recommend that, like now. Seriously, think about it. It's never too late. I've heard so many people say, oh, I'll wait until my deathbed and then I will accept Christ. You don't know when that's going to happen. No. You may not ever get to a deathbed.
Or if whatever it is that happens in the blink of an eye,
it's too late.
It's too late. So the last piece that we heard a little bit about on that tipping point episode, but not in the video we showed you, was an article on futurism.com. And I will say that this one probably shakes me to my core more than anything else we've talked about, because they are truly getting at the heart and trying to, you want to talk about trying to become God. That is 100% what this technology is trying to accomplish.
With CRISPR technology, they can go in and they can knock out certain things within the cell or the gene. With our own DNA, they can go in and try to clone. They've tried to clone people, they've cloned sheep, they've cloned parts. We would argue, that's what we talked about on like a 5 series of the alien. It's really demonic, but they're using human sperm and egg to create life, even though they're creating it, not God. It doesn't have a soul. But it's still with human components, needing human blood. But they have just now created something. And what is that?
They have created a cell that is able to reproduce, so it can multiply, divide, and reproduce with non-living chemical components. They have created it, and it has been able to produce like a daughter cell over several generations. Now, they haven't created one yet that can produce proteins to feed itself. So they have to feed this constantly. They said it's fragile, it's weak, it only works at a certain temperature.
It's not even as good as Ebola. But here's the thing. The scientist was so excited because he said this is the chassis. If you know anything about cars, that's the foundation. That's like what you start with. And they can build on that. Basically, they are, if you can build cells, and if you can make a human, which they think they can, then they're becoming God. They're making life, whether it's a human or not. It is bypassing the human cell and the DNA that God created.
And God's mark is on every chromosome, on every piece of DNA that we have. By trying to create something completely separate from that, not only are they trying to become God by creating, but they are trying to remove his mark from whatever it is they create.
And this is why we decided to slide this one in now. Because we're going to talk about Genesis 3. We're going to talk about not just God creating man and woman, but the Nakash that was in the garden. Who really is the Nakash? Hence why we're wearing our Not Today Satan shirt. And then that's going to then lead us into Genesis 6, the real reason for the flood and Noah. Because the fallen realm, we're trying to create, again, this has been a constant theme from the very beginning. The difference there was they were having to use women.
Right.
So it was a half-breed. It was half human, half angel to create an offspring. But there was still, they didn't have
some
the soul,
part of
but
God's creation.
God hadn't created it.
Right.
But it was still human. This takes it to a whole new level.
We've thrown a lot of information at you today, and some of it is, as we said, the stuff of nightmares.
We serve a God who is greater than all this. We serve a God who is creator of the angelic realm, of the earth, of the universe, and of us. We serve a God who knew what was going to happen with this knowledge from the very beginning. When there was the fall. We serve a God who loves us so much that he will not let us go. And that's why he gave us the book of Revelation and why it says that there is a blessing just for reading it so we can realize how much he loves us. And trust me, he does not want to have to turn up the heat. But if that's what it takes to get people to choose him, that's all it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Is choosing him over the fallen realm who has wanted to be gods and has tried everything to vie for our attention, to invent things, to give us information, to give us knowledge so we'll turn on each other, or so that way we will turn away from God and look to ourselves to be God. That's really ultimately what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've given you a lot to chew on, a lot to think about, a lot to pray on, and it can be kind of scary. But once you know, you can't unknow. Now what you choose to do with that information is totally up to you. But you can't say, we didn't tell you. So until next time,
Shalom.